This is Hogwarts Legacy. We're here on Xbox Series S. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a majestic experience that captures the magic, the style, and the scope of, well, the world of Harry Potter, or the wizarding world of Harry Potter, but in its own sort of way, where you actually don't need to have any context or understanding in regards to the books, the movies, or anything else that existed. You can dive in here incredibly fresh and just enjoy what is a very good magical experience that's just really distinct. It's an open world, magic based RPG game, and it's delightful. The role playing in this is excellent. You get to pick your character, you get to pick and or end up with a particular, I guess you would say, house, if you're familiar with that at all in regards to how Harry Potter works, and then you go out on your own adventure through a school year within the game. So we've got a few different options here on the Series S when it comes to the visuals. So the big thing to note is you actually have to kind of load into areas, as you just saw there, which is a bit different for me because I'm not used to that on the Series X side of things. But there are three options, and I have to record the other option in a different way just due to how the recordings work. So you'll see that in the screen as well. Eventually you'll see it overlaid. So the first option we have is the Fidelity mode. So Fidelity is something like 1200p at 30 FPS. Performance is what we've been on. That's 900p at 60 FPS. And then there's balanced, which is 1080p at 40 FPS. So not really like the best of options. It also looks like the scale is a little bit kind of brought back for draw distance and stuff. It's very, very muddy. I would imagine dynamic resolution scaling is very much in play on this one for different elements of this. And there's HDR support as well, so that's something to mention there. And you're definitely going to have some performance hiccups, and you're going to see a lot more pop-in when you're on the Series S version of the game. So, just kind of keep that in mind. But let's switch over to Fidelity mode, so you can see how that one looks in action. And yeah, so it really is kind of a hard balance to strike. Like, obviously, this does look a little bit better. Obviously, it is definitely a resolution bump up. But, at the same time, it's sort of yeah, I don't know. I think at least trying to get the performance is good. If you do have, a VRR, which is a variable refresh rate sort of screen, I think switching over to this balanced mode, getting that 40 FPS and getting a slightly better resolution is kind of a good middle. Outside of that, though, I would say going for performance mode is probably your best bet. Yeah. So again, looking here at quality mode, it's just sort of it looks better, but it's still very muddled, and, it's sort of like that 30 FPS just is kind of I don't know. It's really, really going to depend on sort of what you can handle in regards to, quality and everything like that. So it's up to you. But we're going to switch over to the performance mode, and we're going to go back and start, in general talking about the game and reviewing it. I just, again, wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of how everything kind of works for the different modes, because that's, again, a lot of what we do. So it's the 1800s. You were invited to Hogwarts, a magical place where you will learn spells as a fifth-year student who is introduced late. You customize your character, your witch, your wizard, and you go about on a magical journey of discovery and figuring out what's going on. There's this element of ancient magic, there's mysteries, there's hidden secrets. There is a ton to do. There are unforgettable characters, deep elements of narrative storytelling, a lengthy tens of hours kind of campaign, and then on top of that, deeper side stories that you can take in with additional characters. Then there's collectibles, and the world itself is massive. Like, if you've ever wanted to explore and see the magic of Hogwarts, you literally get to visit like all of the places of like Hogwarts Castle. And if you've never cared or never desired to, you get a huge, cool, mystical castle to explore. But it's not just the castle. It's the whole world around it, filled with dungeons and groupings of enemies and secrets and collectibles and busy work and animal collection, because there's this whole room of requirement where you're able to like literally breed and capture creatures for and take care of them. It's wild, and as you can tell, like it's massive. Like, this is a huge world that is largely seamless, but not as seamless on the Series S. So just kind of keep that in mind. But it's like it's a big world. Like, it's huge, and there's so much you can do in it, and there's lengthy stories, and there's elements of choice, and you sort of craft your tale of adventure, and you meet all these different characters and all these different places, and you get to do all of these different things, and there's differing weather, and there's differing monsters, and it's magical. Literally magical. And then on top of that, you are basically gathering these spells and these abilities by, like, you know, kind of attending classes or doing differing missions and differing goals. And it allows you to play the game sort of how you want. That is a huge waste of my magical spell there against these frog monsters. But the idea is you really do kind of like, you know, sort of craft your own journey, and it's so majestic, the differing things you get to do, and the things you get to see, and the creatures you get to ride, and the adventures you get to have, and there's lots of puzzles, and there's these different trials. Because again, a big part of it's like ancient magic, and you're sort of getting this background context and story. And you know, some of it might be a bit predictable, but it's still a really lengthy, well-done, twisting tale that I think offers a lot for you to enjoy, a lot for you to take in. It really is quite delightful. Honestly, I had a very, very good time going about exploring and taking in the greater world. And there's all these unlocks, and there's all this gear personalization, and then there's this whole room element with the room requirement. It's not just like a place where you are, you know, kind of like doing animal stuff. There's also an element of, hey, you can use this to make potions, or you can use this to like grow things to create potions. And it's really, really quite in depth is the biggest thing I'm trying to get across. Is it really is very freeing and very expansive. Like, there's a lot you can do. And there's a lot of mystical creatures you can interact with. There's a lot of differing enemies. There's like poachers, and there's these dark sort of wizards, and yeah, it really is quite magical. I'm trying to find like a group of dark wizards. It's hilarious. Usually they're everywhere, but just almost getting unlucky in that regard. But yeah, it's this really big, sprawling game that is just absolutely lovely to play. I had, you know, so much fun diving in here. Huh? Yeah, get it because of the water? And kind of making my character and going on this journey of, you know, excitement and action and spell casting. And it's really neat how these spells kind of like layer upon each other as you continue to do new missions and unlock different abilities. And it's really, really quite cool, because eventually by the end of it you have this large list of spells that you can kind of like combine and unleash in differing ways across your, you know, adventures. And I think that's just really awesome as you become more and more powerful. There was like one troll boss that felt a little overpowered, if that made sense, but other than that, everything felt really balanced and pretty easy going, which is nice. You know, a bit of a challenge, but a bit of like, hey, it's not going to be too crazy for you. There was one puzzle where one or two puzzles where some items could get like stuck under the world. But like, again, it's, I could sit here and I could be like, oh, this or that, but for the most part, it really is just like this perfect wizarding adventure with really, really fun characters and side adventures, like, beast space side adventures, or, like learning these dark spells, or going off on these wild quests in different places, and it's really quite neat. And it's also something where it's like, hey, I was going to show that off there, but I did it pretty badly. But it's like, you can do it with stealth, there's elements of stealth play. There's like intense dueling. There's a lot to really like about this one. There's a lot to enjoy. And I can't believe that actually didn't kill that guy there. Because that unforgivable spell is going to be, or is supposed to be, just an ultimate killing tool. But, yeah, it's utterly fascinating. Because as I had mentioned, it's something where, like, hey, you grew up reading the books, you grew up watching the movies. You're going to love that it comes alive in this format. Because I didn't ever think we'd get a game this kind of in-depth and, detailed within the wizarding world. Because we've had numerous, Harry Potter games over the years. I've played basically all of them. I've seen what they've been like. But none of them really kind of get to this scale. This goes beyond. Because it's not just something that you can enjoy if you, know the material, if you have a working knowledge of the base material. It's something you can really genuinely come in here freshly, like I had said, and basically be like, I just want a really cool magic casting role-playing game. And this is perfect. And it's like something that is perfect, I think, for like, all ages and stuff. I literally think anyone could come in here and have a really fun time and enjoy it and find, just a ton of activities and quests for you to do. And like on the Series S, obviously it's not as pretty, and obviously there's like, it's not perfect, but it's not like a bad way to kind of play it. It's just like a lot murkier, and they make the cutbacks where I think they kind of need to make this work. And it's all right. Like, obviously to me it looks like a bit like muddled soup coming from like the Series X version, but like they did a good job with it. It's nice that you're able to experience this game. Anyone is able to experience this game and have possibly a really, really good time with it. Because I think it's a really worthwhile thing. There's lots to do, there's lots to see, there's lots to enjoy, there's lots of fun to have. You get to enjoy the differing seasons. If you at all have an working knowledge of the lore, you get to see like Hogwarts in the snow. You get to see Hogsmeade in the snow. And like at Christmas is mostly what I'm trying to say is, gets all Christmassy, which is just magical. And, there's different times of the year, and you meet different characters and different classes. If anything, I would have liked to spend more time with some of the class elements, or more time with certain characters from certain classes. But, again, as a story, it works really well. It feels like a self-contained thing. You feel like you get to make a bit of choices in regards to, how your character is perceived. Do you strike the line of good? Do you strike the line of evil? You kind of get to pick and choose, which is kind of fun. Being almost Fable-esque in that regard, which is entertaining. But it was just a really good, differing sort of story. It was something that, like, I'm familiar with the world of Hogwarts, but I got to enjoy something fresh. New characters, fresh stakes, fresh challenges, quirky moments that were funny and entertaining, times that were heartfelt, times that were dark. It really, really hits the mark of being like a perfect sort of wizarding adventure. And it's just like, it is such a treat that we got to experience something like this, or that you get to experience something like this. Because very rarely do you get games that are so kind of well put together, so creative, so large in scale, that take a property that you very likely know and love, and expand upon it in a way that's accessible for literally anyone. It really does rarely ever happen. And it's just amazing that it's actually, like, you know, I've worked through it and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Because then I can come back and I could, like, you know, I could kind of take a different approach at it. I could do a different, you know, kind of house and have a little bit of a different adventure. And that is really, really cool. And that I have the desire to do that, I think, is even more interesting. Because that in itself can be a pretty, you know, challenging sort of thing to create, is that, hey, you know, it's a game you want to replay. It's a game you want to probably revisit a number of times. Even though it is lengthy, that is impressive. And there's so much to get involved in this one. Like, if you are really having fun with this game, you can spend a lot of time having fun with this game. And you will kind of usually, I think for the most part, be shocked at just, like, the things you can run into. Like, I'll be, you know, going off and doing whatever sort of, like, finding things, and then all of a sudden I'll have, like, another little quest I'll be doing, or another little secret I'll be engaged in. And that in itself is really, really good. You know, that is amazing, that there's just so much to this game. It really is kind of, I know it might sound odd, but it's kind of like a dream come true, or literally the books coming true, where it's like, you know, I read about this stuff when I was younger, I watched the movies, but I didn't think we'd ever get a game where you literally get to explore, you know, Hogwarts. You get to go beyond Hogwarts, and you get to experience it in so many interesting ways, and you can go about it in a calm manner or a fast manner. And you get to visit all these places and all these hidden secrets, and you get to enjoy, you know, scenes of, like, wonder, or adventure, or shock, or sorrow. Like, there's, you know, depth to the characters, there's depth to the moments that's going on. There's... chickens! There's funny stuff, right? Like, it's a serious game, obviously, but it's also at times kind of silly, and I think it captures the magic of the universe very, very effectively, and I think you'll have a lovely time playing this game, no matter how, you know, kind of into Harry Potter you are, because literally, like I've said numerous times, you do not even need to have read a single word, sentence, or even care in the slightest who Harry Potter is, or any of those characters, or even the universe that they set up. You just can come in here, and you can have a fun, easygoing, magical journey where you literally craft your own adventure in whatever way you want, and it feels like endless. It really does. Like, this is, you know, we've been kind of flying around this big area here, but this is just like one spot of it. You know, we didn't even really go through the large castle, because there's this huge world there, filled with students learning things, and, you know, then there's all these dungeons, and these catacomb areas, and bosses, and trolls, and monsters, and magical spells, and these beautiful, really, truly beautiful environments that you get to visit. I was so pleasantly surprised. Like, every other moment, you know, I'd get sidetracked, or, you know, you finish a quest with someone, you walk up to this beautiful tree with these creatures fluttering around. And again, like, obviously on Series S, it's like a little, you know, it's a lot murkier, right? But it's still really well done. It's still that full game. It's still really neat. It's expansive. It's great. And I've kind of hoping that people will dive in and be able to experience the magic like I did, and just be like, wow, this is a good game. That's the biggest thing. Why didn't that guy get assassinated when I assassinated him? Oh, jeez. This is when the fun begins. Unforgivable curse. But yeah, it's Hogwarts Legacy. It's awesome, it's fun, it's expansive, it's crazy, it's cool, it's magical. You feel pretty awesome when you start, like, unleashing your spells and getting your full spell list going. And yeah, it's really, really cool. Like, this is such a genuinely well done game, and I really hope that they do more with this, and this is a basis of something they just build upon for years to come, because this is the best foundation you could expect.